Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the My Love of Golf podcast. It's Roscoe here, your host, and today I have a very special guest. It's actually a returning guest. It's Will Watt, Editor-in-Chief of CADDIE. Yes, you know the guys at CADDIE. Well, they've been very busy working on a side project, and that side project turned up in my mail the other day in the form of a beautiful coffee table book by the name of Lofted. Lofted is a production by the team at CADDIE, and it features articles from a whole host of CADDIE volumes. Volume 1, which you can no longer get. Volume 2, which I believe is also sold out. Volume 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's articles in there, some of the favourites of the fans, some of the favourites of the team at CADDIE that you can see. But it's all bound up in a beautiful, hardbacked, bound, wonderful coffee table book. Now, I was very, very fortunate to get a very early copy of this. I was very fortunate to be able to sit down and chat to Will about it, and we talk about that now. We also talk about a little bit of what's happening with CADDIE, and you should go and have a look at the Lofted book. It is out on August 5th. It's published by Hardy Grant. In the show notes, there is a link where you can go and buy Lofted. If you're in the UK or you're in America, it will take you to the best place for you to get that in your region. So it's very convenient. But if you are golf content consumers like I am and you like a good coffee table book, well, then this is a must-have. This will sit in my library, small but meaningful library to me, and it will sit alongside my volumes of CADDIE, and it will sit alongside some of my other favourite golf booklets or books, magazines, whatever forms my library. But you should have this, Lofted, Remarkable and Far-Flung Adventures from the Modern Golfer. Listen to the podcast. Great to catch up with Will. He is one of the great guys of the golfing landscape here in Australia. Always a privilege for me to be able to get some of his time. Enjoy the episode. Look forward to speaking to you next time on the My Love of Golf podcast. Will Watt from CADDIE, welcome back to the My Love of Golf podcast. How are you, sir?
Ross, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on, and it's great to be back.
It's excellent to see you. Probably been a few months since we caught up. I think last we saw each other was maybe down at Kingston Heath. We had a little bit of an afternoon get-together down there with a few of your colleagues from the golfing world, and that was great to see you then. Obviously, the world's changed a lot in that time. I think that was maybe February and then March. We all know what's happened since then, and it's affected you and your world as much, if not more than anybody. But I believe that you have been up to some great work and put out a wonderful project, which we're going to talk about today. Now, how have you been?
Yeah, been going pretty well considering the craziness that's swirling around us, I suppose. It's a chance for us to take a break and embrace the slow life a little bit more, I suppose. We had a lot of plans from that time we last met up in February through to now that have fallen through or been postponed, and a lot of them were very exciting stories and collaborations that we were doing with CADDIE. But at the same time, kind of looking back on those things, if we'd done all of them, I think I'd be pretty exhausted talking to you right now. But as it is, I'm feeling pretty fresh, and we've got plenty going on as it is. So it's not the worst thing in the world.
Look, I can
from our point of view.
I can only imagine that a lot of those projects are just on hold. They're not cancelled. They'll just move to another scheduled, another time slot, in the future. And I can't wait to see what's in store there by the sounds of things. You have been working fairly hard still, and in my hands I have a beautiful, and I'm not sure of any other adjectives more than that I'd rather use than beautiful. It is a beautiful feeling, beautiful looking, hardbound book. Tell us about Lofted, Will. This is beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty special thing, isn't it? It's been under wraps for a while, as I mentioned in the pre-show. There, it's you're one of the first to get your hands on it. So it's and you're the first person I've spoken to about it. So it's exciting to start getting the word out. It's a project that we've been working on for at least a year now, since we first met up with our publishers, Hardy Grant, and it was an idea that sort of came about we get at least half a dozen emails a week for people wanting to get hold of volume 1, which has been sold out now for 2 years. And now we're also sold out of volume 2 and 3. So there's a lot of CADDIE story, and we don't have a lot of those stories online either. So there's a lot of CADDIE stories that are kind of locked away and people can't even access them anymore. So we started thinking about, do we do a reprint of volume 1? But that's something that, doesn't really suit our style to kind of go back and revisit things in that way. And we started looking at, once you have the stack of CADDIE sitting there and you're looking all the stories that have been built up over 4 years now, we thought it'd be cool to do a compilation where we brought together our favorite stories from all of those issues and put them in a really nice book. We took that to Hardy Grant as an idea, and they were on board pretty much straight away. They said, "We love it. Let's do it. How can we work with you on this?" And yeah, signed a book deal back in would have been end of last year. Started the process of putting together something that I think's really beautiful, and really proud of how the final book has come together. I think we're at 280 odd pages of full color, beautiful matte paper, hardcover with beautiful embossing on the front. And it's not something I ever planned to do, was release a book as part of the CADDIE project, but now that we have it really fits in with what we are all about, and I think people are going to really enjoy it, especially in the times that we're in, where you've got a bit of time on your hands and maybe do a bit of travel from the couch.
Well, I've talked about it on a previous episodes with different people in different ways, but yeah, living our current life and not being able to travel, me not being able to go to Scotland, for example, and see family and play golf and do all that fun stuff that I love to do every 18 months or so. Things like this is all we got, mate. We look up to people like yourself who are able to create such wonderful images and such wonderful products now for us to use. And Lofted is going to hit the stands, using publisher terms. Is that the right term to use? Hit the stands, hit the stores, hit the online stores. When is it going to release, mate?
August 5th is the release date. It does hit the stands, but I'm not sure if people can actually go into many of the stands at the moment. But one of the advantages of working with a publisher is that it will be in bookstores around the world. So that's very exciting, sort of in Barnes & Noble and all the big ones over in the US, as well as all the big stores in Australia that you'd know about. And then also, again, on Amazon.com and all the big online retailers as well. So it'll be very easy to find wherever you normally find books, I guess. Yeah.
Now, at the start, I did say welcome back to the My Love of Golf podcast. You have been a previous guest. It was in May last year. So if you do want to learn of the CADDIE story and Will's journey into now being a publisher, you can go back and listen to that episode, and I do implore you to do that. It was a very good one, and I learned a lot about Will, CADDIE, and his team in doing that interview, and it's been one of the most downloaded interviews that we've done. But when you mentioned book deal, when I heard those words just come across the speaker then, I thought, wow, that book deal, that's the real deal. That's the big time. And I think you just mentioned that you didn't ever expect to have a book deal, but can you think back to that time when you were standing around the fire or wherever it was at a music festival or with all the guys that you're currently working with, and now you've got a book deal? How does that make you feel?
It's great. Yeah, it's not, as I said, it's not something we ever planned to come out of the CADDIE project. It really was, like you say, an idea up on a hill at a music festival that then became a physical product in the CADDIE magazine, volume 1, back all those 4 years ago. And yeah, to see that kind of, we've learned a lot throughout that process in terms of publishing and writing and photography, and everything that we do has been a learning process throughout that time, and I think we're getting better at all of those aspects. But then for that to then get, I guess, some recognition and a bit of recognition, I guess, that what we're doing is of the level of quality that we kind of hoped that it was.
Yeah.
For it to be recognised by a publisher in that way was fantastic, and it's a nice kind of reward, I guess, for a lot of hard work to have then been able to put that together and say, look, this is something that we think's good. And then a publisher say, yeah, we would love to kind of support you in that. So yeah, it's been very rewarding. And I think for the whole team behind CADDIE, it's been a bit of a pat on the back, I guess, for 4 years of kind of grinding away, doing our own thing and self-publishing, which is not an easy thing to do by any means.
How would you describe it? Have you got the copy there in front of you? Just for the benefit, we might make a little bit of, hold it up to the camera there. So we might put a little video out there, and you can see it's a thick, hardbound, hardcover, editorial and image-based. Do you call it a coffee table book? Is that the right vernacular to use?
Oh yeah, this would look pretty damn good on your coffee table.
In the last few days that it's been sitting in my house since I was very, very kindly received it, it has been sitting on a coffee table and it looks magnificent. It's not only stories from the CADDIE volumes that have sold out, is it? There's a few other stories in there that I think from some other other volumes.
Yeah, it's from all. It's actually, there's a story even from volume 8 in here. So yeah, all 8 editions are featured. So there's, and it's not. Even though my name is on the front of the thing, it's not just me in here. That was a publisher's decision. Apparently, it kind of helps a lot for sales off the shelves if it's just a very simple cover with just an author listed. But it's very much a collaborative book. So edited by the whole CADDIE team and with contributions from at least a dozen, I think, contributors over the years that we've had featured in CADDIE. So yeah, very, very much a compilation book. But one of the great things of working with Hardy Grant was we kind of went to them with 8 editions worth of written and photography content and illustrations, which is a lot to get your head around. We're talking at least 20,000 words per issue of CADDIE. Times that by 8 editions, it's a lot to digest. So we didn't hear from them for about 2 or 3 months after we kind of dumped all that on their lap and said, look, this is what we've got. How can we wrangle this into a book? And yeah, they went a bit quiet and then came back to us and they'd culled it down to what they felt was a very cohesive and a really good range of different stories that covered the entire globe and also the entire gamut of golf experiences. We've got Andrew Quilty's story from Afghanistan, which I think we might have talked about last time. Kind of these, in a war-torn Kabul in Afghanistan, these guys meeting up at a little 9-hole course every week and playing on probably the roughest golf course you can imagine. But the love of golf is there and it gets them together and brings them some enjoyment all the way through to, the billionaires' playground of Cape Kidnappers with Julian Robinson's fortune kind of funding this amazing golf resort, which, it's not super accessible, but geez, it's pretty cool to read about. So there's the full gamut and it covers as many countries as we could fit into 280 pages.
Now, some of the contributors that you mentioned there before, some young people that I've got to know through the journey who are, in my mind, standouts in their individual field, but not necessarily would you put their names against writing articles and that sort of thing, maybe. But you've got Mike Cocking's in there, and he's we both know Mike pretty well by now, and obviously a favourite of mine through his work down at Peninsula Kingswood, and some of his artworks and drawings are in there. His template hole article in there, that's one that I like to refer back to, the Biarritz greens. What are your favourite, I think we mentioned the Kabul article there. Is there any other sort of standout pieces in there that you just think this one couldn't miss?
So one of my favourite kind of photography essays is from Christian Hoffa. You probably know from Instagram. He's now at golf.com. But we were kind of the first to publish his work that I know of, at least in the golf world. And we've got images from his honeymoon, actually, which is on the west coast of Ireland. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful series. It's even there's a spread there with a real beaten up old Land Rover, and then this incredible road through the rocky mountainside of Ireland. And I feel like that's a real nice adventurous story and speaks to what CADDIE's all about, just out there exploring and finding new places. But having said that, the Sandbelt article as well, and you mentioned Mike Cocking there, we've got his beautiful watercolor work featuring his favorite holes, and he also takes us through his favorite holes of each of the kind of 8 famous or core Sandbelt courses. And then we've also got the Lion Loft illustrations of the course maps, the real minimalist course maps, which is almost like a thumbprint for each of the courses. So it's been cool to see that article in particular, where you've got our photography, the thumbprints from Lion Loft, the watercolors from Mike Cocking, and his breakdown of the holes, and also some of the history of the Sandbelt as well. So I think that's a really beautiful piece, particularly for international readers who wouldn't know the Sandbelt as well, and then also for locals who know the Sandbelt or know parts of it at least, and can see it presented in this way. And then probably the favourite story that we did was the Pokhara, Nepal Himalayan golf course, which has come together again. That was way back, volume 2. We did that one where we rode around on motorbikes around Nepal and ended up at this, the world's highest golf course, I think it is. So just a beautiful trip.
When did you do Pokhara? Was that like 2016 or?
Yeah, November 2016, I believe. So we were launching volume 1 at the time. The Kickstarter campaign for volume 1 was live while we were in Nepal. So I remember checking it while we were at the hostel in Pokhara and saying, we've got $2,000 to go to get our Kickstarter done, and if we get it, we're away, and this will become a real story for the next issue. So that was a very exciting time. It was a great trip with good friends as well.
Any dramas on that trip, mate?
Yeah, there was plenty. Yeah, I mean, you've got 6 guys on Royal Enfield motorbikes, 5 of which don't have motorbike licenses or have much of an idea of how to ride a motorbike. So there were definitely a few tumbles and tips throughout the trip. Nothing, no broken bones or anything serious. But we were all smiling ear to ear at the end of that, knowing that we'd survived it.
Now, I certainly like the Christian Hoffa story. For me, having been to Lahinch, when I saw that story, and it just really resonated with me. And it was probably, talking about giving young photographers and editorial people a start. Christian really wasn't really a name back then. And did he reach out to you, or did you reach out to him? How did you guys know each other? Because he's obviously gone on through his association with Eric, and then now it's golf.com that he's working for now, and a whole plethora of people. How did the connection with Christian come about? Because I think a lot of people who listen to this will know Christian, but they might not necessarily know his very early connection back to you.
Yeah, he submitted we have a submissions page on our website, and he just submitted a story idea about a trip to Ireland, and linked through to a couple of photos from his trip. And I clicked on those photos and forwarded straight onto our photography editor, Dave, and I was like, have a look at these. He was like, yep, let's get this story happening. And got back to Christian. I was like, mate, these are incredible. We'd love to see more. And he sent through the full album from that trip, and we worked with him on getting those into print. And it was we dedicated, I think, thinking back to that edition now, I think we gave 20 to 24 pages across to that story, because we felt the imagery was strong enough. And we put it on, that was our first ever gloss section that we did in CADDIE. I think it was volume 3. So the previous 2 had just been all matte pages. But I'd come across a British Journal of Photography had come out that summer, and they'd had this amazing gloss section where it was super shiny, really lush gloss pages, just as one section of the magazine. And I was like, we could do that in CADDIE as a really kind of special point of difference for one section of the magazine. And we've kept that through ever since. Every edition we have 16 pages of gloss, and we decided to do that for Christian's story. So those photos really stood out in that edition. Whether it was, I think Christian was going to be making waves in the golf world either way, but we're certainly proud to have put him in print early on, and I think he referred to that as the start of something about a year ago now, when we kind of did a bit of a retrospective on that story and posted some stuff, he kind of acknowledged that was a way for him to kind of kick off into the golf world. So yeah, that was really cool. And you know, it's kind of great to see him now. I think he's the director of photography at golf.com. So it's been a very fast rise for him. And I think he is changing the way golf is presented on a really large scale, which is fantastic. Like, that's exactly why we started CADDIE magazine, was to elevate the way golf is presented and perceived. So to see that, to see Christians kind of doing that on such a big scale is brilliant. And, you know, we'd love to see more of that. And I kind of along that line, Lukas Michels featured in volume 8, and you know, he's a very talented golfer, obviously, having won the Mid-Am and hopefully going to Augusta off the back of that. But also very, very handy photographer, and his writing is brilliant as well. So we've been pretty stoked to have him on board for volume 8 and kind of introduce him to the golf world as well. So that's something that we love to do at CADDIE, is be that kind of stepping stone for people and provide an opportunity and a platform for young, talented people to get the word out there.
There does seem to be a growing pool of young, talented, artisan-type golf creator cohort growing, especially in Melbourne. You know, you talk about Lukas and some of his friends and colleagues that he's hanging out with, and they're all on a similar sort of, you know, journey. Not sure if that's the right term, but you know, talented in their own ways. You know, I refer to it as artisan or craft. Or do you have a better term for that culture of golf and the way that people are seeing and doing golf and interacting with golf and creating different visions for golf? You know, when you look at Lukas and maybe young Millsy, young Millsy, young Nick.
Yeah, look, I think it's really exciting time in golf, and this is why you know, 3 or 4 years ago, we were like, look, there's so much more to the game. And I think we're just starting to see that come out. And a little bit, I think, also has to do with the ability of social media to be able to connect some of these people and encourage and collaborate through that. But it's fantastic to see. And it's just fresh voices coming to the game, which were much needed and will only encourage more people to get interested in the game. I think it's bridging that divide between the kind of inner core of golf lovers, which is often from an outsider's perspective a little bit, people find it difficult to understand why we love golf. I mentioned that in the forward for Lofted. You know, they think we're crazy. We're out there. I mean, I was out playing in the rain out at Healesville a couple of weeks ago, you know, and ankle deep mud trudging around, but we had a great time. But we met up with some people for drinks afterwards, and they're like, what were you guys doing out there? It's just drizzling rain and cold, and, you know, how are you? And we're like, oh, it was great. We had a great match, and we came up the 18th and it was tight, and, you know, hit a birdie, and, you know. So trying to explain that to people is often quite difficult. You know, you're up in the dark on a weekend, you're dodging snakes out on King Island, and there's people have all these gizmos and apps and all the gear which you know about. So it's just how deep do you want to go? But I think trying to explain that and bridge that divide from the hardcore golfer to the person who doesn't play golf, a lot of this kind of fresh ideas and fresh content helps bridge that divide, because it creates a bit of interest and a bit of style that people who aren't necessarily mad about the game will then kind of latch onto, and that can be part of their gateway into the game.
Look, in terms of timing, you know, in doing what I do, I've seen a whole host of new people come to the game because they can't do their other chosen sport. You know, that their weekly sport, team sport of choice is cancelled. And I've seen a whole load of people that really fit with what I think into that demographic of non-establishment type of people come to the game. And I think there's just going to be a continued upsurge in people looking for golf, and I guess if it's non-established, you know, in a non-establishment type form, you know, the traditional clubs, traditional, editorial, they're going to be looking for a whole range of different content. And I think, Lofted and CADDIE just sits beautifully in that space. What CADDIE? So obviously, we've got another 6 weeks of lockdown here, and that's global travel is a bit of a non-event at the moment. But what's next for CADDIE? We've just tell us about Volume 8. That's just come out.
Yeah, so Volume 8 launched about a month ago, and it's been going great guns. So yeah, as I mentioned, we've got Lukas Michels, his report back from Sandhills, which he played, I'm not sure if it's before or after he won the Mid-Am. But yeah, beautiful photography essay and written piece and review. Then we've got, we were able to time it so there's a bit of a lockdown theme to Volume 8. So the cover itself has got a golfer in camouflage up against a hedge, which is kind of our desperate golfer who snuck out onto the golf course and had a round while it was banned here in Victoria, at least.
So you've got him in a ghillie. What's it called? A ghillie suit? Is that what a sniper would wear? Yeah, it's a genuine British Army ghillie suit that our photographer Nicole Reed had on hand and had posted as part of her lockdown project, and I thought that'd be a pretty cool way to bring that to CADDIE. And it was probably the first cover that we've actually kind of art directed from the start and had a concept that we wanted on there, and it came to fruition really well. Nicole's an amazing photographer we've worked with on several issues in the past, and she nailed it. So yeah, it was pretty fun to do. It's actually me in the ghillie suit. I'm interested to know why Nicole would have a ghillie suit just tucked away in the closet.
Yeah, I didn't ask.
No.
But yeah, I guess could come in handy. Yeah. Did come in handy. Then we've got a beautiful piece on, I did a trip pre-lockdown in November last year to Malaysia, to the island of Langkawi. There's an Ernie Els golf course there, and also it's kind of a story where the hotel kind of took the cake over the golf course, and it's one of the most stunning resorts in the world, actually, the Datai Langkawi. So it's not cheap, but if you ever have a special occasion and a once in a lifetime trip you're looking at doing, I'd highly recommend the Datai Langkawi. And the golf course nearby is kind of weaves through this ancient rainforest and also has oceanside holes. So it's also spectacular as a break from the resort luxury, I guess. And then Manners Golf, who you might have seen, new brand out of the UK. They've sponsored Adam Wabi, who's the currently ranked 5th in the world ranking for golfers with a disability. And he's a great guy. I actually met him at the President's Cup. He was out here and bumped into him just by the 16th green, and we had a catch up. And he's an awesome dude and just always grinning and cracking jokes, and really loved catching up with him. So been wanting to do a story on him for a while, and Manners had done a beautiful photo shoot with him out at Wentworth in the UK. That's a great piece, and interview with him, profile piece. And then Nick Mills, who mentioned earlier, has done a concept piece on the Yoda Gawa Youth Club, which is a cool idea for a course in Osaka on the banks of the Yodo River, which is kind of one of the only open spaces left in Osaka, is this flood plain area on the banks of the river. So Nick's designed this course that can be kind of work around the flooding and actually be quite flexible to change if the topography of the land there changes due to the annual flooding of the river. So that was a really cool piece, and Nick's done some cool maps and used some of his landscape architecture skills to bring that to life. Do you want me to keep going through the whole issue here, mate? I don't want to ramble.
No, may as well. I'm interested. I actually haven't seen it, mate. So I apologise in advance. But yeah, what's your next favourite
It'll be
story?
with you next week. We've had some shipping delays as due to the virus. Has been a bit of a nightmare out there for all deliveries. But yeah, Yangtze Dunes as well. So Ashley Mead from OCM wrote a piece for us, and Nick from Airswing Media provided some of the beautiful photography work that he does for this piece. So Ash kind of takes us behind the scenes on what that project was like to work on, working within China and working with locals there and that experience. So got real insider's view on building that course and some of the things I learned about working in China.
Just on actually there, so for those listening, he's the lesser spoken about partner in OCM, so Ogilvy, Cocking and Mead. And locally, I believe Ash has been largely responsible for the work down at Lonsdale, which just looks absolutely sensational. So I can't wait to see the Yangtze story. I can't wait to see Nick's imagery from Airswing Media, another friend of the My Love of Golf podcast. Mate, it sounds fabulous. What about moving forward? Obviously, difficult times. We mentioned that. Don't need to cover that. But is there a snip? Can you give us a bit of an insight into what, when we can travel again, what it looks like for you, without giving away any of your destination or venue secrets? But what's in the big picture?
Well, you mentioned Lonsdale Golf Club there, so we're definitely hoping to do a story on that once it opens up. So that's looking like later in the year. So we'll be working with Ashley on getting the inside word on some of the design that's gone in there. It's pretty exciting for a lot of the golf nerds in Victoria, coming together with the kind of geometric greens and a bit of that kind of Rayner-esque style. It's been implemented down there, so that's going to be a cool one, I reckon. And then we're working on obviously we can't fly anywhere, or at least by the time we're gathering content for Volume 9, we'll be able to at least leave the city. But we've got some exciting stories coming together along the coastlines of Australia. I can't say too much more, but that'll be one of our major feature stories. And then we've even through Volume 8, there were a lot of stories there that we had hoped to travel to do, but we weren't able to do it. So we're leaning more on our contributors to bring their perspective to the mag. In the past we would produce probably at least half of each edition, but that's dropping down now probably to a quarter to a third, and then opening up our pages to contributors. So we've got plenty in the works. Just a matter of curating and finding a focus for the issue. Like with Volume 8, we obviously had the kind of lockdown idea, but Volume 9 could be more of a road trip style edition.
Now, for the contributors, if people listen to this from overseas and they think, well, I could contribute, what are your top 5 requirements of a contributor? Or what would you say to someone who has an idea, I could help? I'm over here in Scotland, Ireland, south of England, wherever. What would you say to them?
So we definitely need something a little bit different. So we're looking for a celebration of the game, I guess, is the kind of starting point. But it needs to either be educational, quirky, character-driven, something that is a little bit unexpected, I guess. When you flick onto a CADDIE article, you never want to just flick the page and just read a boring old review of a golf course. It's got to be there's got to be a hook there that is interesting and unexpected. Yeah, as I said. So, and down to earth, authentic is critical as well. We don't publish anything that's tricked up or looks like it's got an agenda, I guess. We just want the real authentic stories from out there, and if it's clear, it's conversational and accessible, then that's the kind of writing style we're looking for. On the visual side of things, we're pretty picky and obsessed over photography, so that has been a challenge in the past. We've had some amazing written articles come in, and we haven't been able to find any visuals to go with it. That doesn't completely preclude it from being in there, but we do have to keep the style of the magazine. It does have a heavy visual emphasis, so we have commissioned illustrators in the past to accompany a piece, and we did that in Volume 8 with Paul Verhoeven's piece did a piece on would it be better to play golf in the Star Wars universe or the Star Trek universe. So obviously hard to find any photography for that. So we actually had Christopher Cabby from Cabby Design, you might know, do a beautiful little illustration for that piece. So doesn't have to have photography with it, but it definitely helps. And again, with the photography, you kind of we're looking for something a bit different and a bit edgy. So yeah, hopefully that gives a bit of an idea. We do have a page on the website and contribute. So it's caddiemag.com/contribute, and we offer a bit of an insight there into what we're looking for and a bit more information about story length and how to submit some photography examples as well.
Mate, just before we sign off, we did some work together there on your bushfire appeal, which was very commendable of you to go out there and use your voice and the network to raise some funds back in a different challenging time of this year, in the bushfire time.
Was it 5 years ago? No,
yeah, exactly. It seems like it was only 5 months, but mate, that was great work, and I was very, very happy to be able to contribute towards the round of golf with yourself and two other readers down at Peninsula Kingswood. I've been in contact with the winner of that, and he is super pumped to get down there when we can. Well, how did that go in terms of raising some funds and what we were able to contribute there?
Yeah, so the final amount was just over $8,000.
That's great.
Dollars, which is it's not cheap stations, but we were glad to be able to contribute, and I think the generosity and the spirit of the golf community was the most touching thing to come out of that. I actually was pretty amazed. Sort of Eric came on board as well and donated a similar round over in LA at Rustic Canyon.
Rustic, yeah.
So that was really cool. And Seamus Golf created a custom head cover for us as part of the auctions. Someone donated their copy of Volume 1, which I was amazed at, and that went for I think $380 or something. So and then all the sales from Volume 6 throughout that month went towards it as well. So yeah, around $8,000 overall. We've got that money set aside, and we have a plan for how to spend it. We want to do it rather than just donating that to it's kind of like a wildlife organization or Red Cross or something like that. We actually wanted to spend it in more of a direct way that we could be involved with. So we're working on a project at the moment that would see that be the case, but I don't want to speak too soon on it. Mm-hmm. I know it has been a while, and we do tend to do things a bit slowly here at CADDIE, but yeah, we've got that money set aside, and we're just kind of formulating how exactly we'll spend it. We want to not only spend it in a direct manner, but also hopefully by bringing the kind of CADDIE lens to that, to how that is spent, to amplify the impact of that. So yeah, working on that at the moment, and that we think that'll be in place for Volume 9, and we can report back.
Well, mate, I was rapt to be able to help in even very, very, very small way, and I commend you on the work that you did and keep doing on that, and I'm sure it'll be great. Mate, Lofted, the coffee table book, it's sensational. It's available via all of those means that we spoke about earlier on in the podcast. Amazon, in your shops. Yep, we'll get a photo of it. It's beautiful. Look at it. It even looks beautiful on the screen here, mate. August 5th, it's out. It's published by Hardy Grant. It is a must-have. I've got my little small collection of golf and architecture magazines over to my left, which I look on, and it's going to sit there when it's not out on the coffee table, and it will be very, very, very often looked at. Well done to the team, to yourself. I'm glad that it's not... you haven't gone rogue and left the band, so to speak. And when I saw William Watt on the front, I thought it might have been like a I can't even think of a band, but a band-like project where Will's gone, in a little separate entity. But no, it's still very much the team collaboration. And huge congratulations to the team, mate. I appreciate you coming on, giving me the opportunity firsthand to see the book early, and secondly to be able to talk to you and sit down and chat about it. I really do appreciate you, as always, mate. As always.
Thanks so much, Ross. It's been awesome to chat to you. Thanks for having me on again, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. I'm sure we've got some rollback discussions floating around at the moment with Bryson bombing it all over the place and wreaking havoc over there. So I think Matt's keen to have a chat with you about that as well. So hopefully it won't be too long till we meet again. And yeah, as I said, it's something we're very proud of, and can't wait to get it out there.
Mate, I can't wait to catch up with you again. Yes, Matt Molliker is keen to talk about rollback, and that's another time that we'll be able to get together. And I'll see you down at Peninsula Kingswood for the round, hopefully sooner rather than later. Mate, keep well, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ross.